In today's Warzone video, we're going to be going over the meta. And what I mean by that is I'm going to tell you guys about like what are all the different meta weapons and how does everything fall into place right now. If you haven't enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. Okay, so fellas, like I said, we're going to be talking about the meta here within today's video. What we're doing is we're actually on a website here. This is Warzone Ranked, and what this does is this actually takes all the different guns and you can actually switch this out for a variety of different things here for like regular BR. You can see the overall pick ratio, the KD ratio of the guns, how like, you know, what's the overall win percentage, everything like that. And we're gonna be able to show you guys pretty much like what are the most used things out there in Warzone as of right now, and is it actually like good, and should you be using it? Because I know there's a lot of guns that can be really indeed good and like statistically, but practically speaking they're really not all that great, and I'll explain here kind of a little bit more so as we get into the video. But as we can see here, the best Warzone guns, technically speaking right now, the Armaguerra 43 is the most used and most highly picked gun in the entirety of Warzone. And that is, at least on the regular Caldera map, we can switch this over to Resurgence here and apply that, and it's still more or less going to be the Armaguerra. So the Armaguerra here, I mean, listen, an 8.33 ratio, this is the highest thing in the entire game. The overall KD is really not all that great, just because when you have a super high pick ratio, that means that, you know, everybody under the sun's going to be using it, all the way from the greatest players down to the very low KD players. I myself have around a 4 KD, so I will bring that overall KD up when I use it, but then somebody that's got a sub 1 KD will of course bring it down more often than not. And then of course it gets, you know, a little bit less wins here on overall, you know, like Fortune's Keep or something like that. Or we could just go to like, you know, I think I can actually, I'm not sure if I can unselect it, but whatever the case is, it doesn't matter all that much. It's just about the same thing as Rebirth Island. But we have the other weapons here: the PPS H41, the Grau 5.56, the Cooper Carbine, the H4 Blixen, the Kar 98K, the Marco 5, the MP40, the STG 44, and then the Automaton. Then pretty much this is going to be like your main go-to like subset of really super meta guns, and these are going to be the ones that you more or less should be picking from if you want to be able to compete here in Warzone. So obviously I've shown you guys some Armaguerra builds on the channel, which are incredibly good. We can go over some of these actually a little bit later in the video. Like I can give you some real solid ones just you know, as a courtesy. But pretty much you have the Armaguerra, the PPSH, the top 2 SMGs in the entirety of the game. The Armaguerra falls a lot more into like a different style of build where you have to ADS quite a bit, and then of course then on your PPSH, I'll actually go back here and reset that, but the PPSH falls in a lot more in the hipfire sort of thing, where that is incredibly good in that regard. So 2 different SMGs that are better at close range in different instances, but still the top meta. The Grau 5.56, the reason this is up here is not because it's the best thing in the entire game, but because that it's like an OG assault rifle that absolutely everybody has. It got buffed enough to make it to the point where it's actually really good and in meta contention, but it's just going to be like, because everyone's had it unlocked, people are going to use it. So it's not probably statistically the best thing, but it's also incredibly usable, which is another key factor. The Grau has like virtually 0 recoil. I've shown you guys a couple of builds for it, but there's that. But let's move a little bit more down here. Cooper Carbine, I personally don't use that. I don't like it all that much. The H4 Blixen is really good. I have a video going up with it here either after this one or before this one. I don't know exactly the order I'm going to be posting these things because of the Rebirth update coming out. And then we have, of course, the Kar 98K, the Modern Warfare Kar 98, not the Vanguard car. That as a tried and true classic, Marco 5, MP40 STG, Automaton, all good stuff down here. Though I will say the MP40 I don't use as much nowadays, just because I'm not that big of a fan of it. But the STG 44, I would, even from my personal choice, I'd put this as like one of the top ARs to use, like maybe sort of like the Grau. And I also really don't use the Automaton all that much, just because I don't believe it hits nearly as hard. I also don't like the overall mobility of it in comparison to my STG 44. But these, for the lack of a better term, are going to be the best ones. And we can also see a little bit of a graph here as far as the most popular weapons go. You can see like pretty much like guns that have had their limelight as being like super popular over here the past week, like the Armaguerra. This is right around, I think, the time actually of the update, the 23rd. And then you can kind of see, even going through it a little bit more so, it actually has fallen off a little bit. So it was even picked more so after a couple of nerfs, it probably brought it out of contention. And you can see the PPS H41, which was down here literally being like picked not at all, and then it got buffed, like super buffed, and now it's being like way up here as like the second most used SMG. Went from literally nothing to like that in a week, which is kind of crazy. But Most popular weapon types, of course, we have your SMGs and your ARs. I mean, everyone loves their SMGs or ARs. That's pretty much going to stay the same. Everyone has to run an SMG as a secondary, and you can see all the rest of the stuff down here, like, you know, shotguns, melee. Like, melee is increased a little bit, I think, because they buffed like Cali sticks or something like that. But overall, like, even shotguns, I mean, those things, they nerfed the shotguns. Like, I think back in like season 4 Reloaded, made all of them do like 20% less damage, something like that. So it was not nearly as good. And then, of course, down here at the very bottom, most popular weapon type vintages between Vanguard, Modern Warfare, and Cold War. And as you can see, it's unfortunate that Modern Warfare and Cold War are so far down here. And then Vanguard stays at the top, pretty much because whenever there's a new game out, the Cold War weapons rise when, you know, they got integrated to Warzone, and then the Vanguard weapons, well, actually, when they got integrated to Warzone, it was an absolute mess, and it was a very, very, like, bad time because they had Bloom and they were terrible. But I mean, over the year, they've kind of corrected them out and made them significantly better. But that's actually really cool. And I also wanted to jump over here to another website, which is pretty neat. And this is called Warzone Loadouts, and they actually will rank everything. And as far as like absolute super hard meta, right now, the UGM8, as far as like a long range gun is technically speaking, that's the LMG from Vanguard. That is like super meta, but I personally don't like it. Just because of like, I'm not gonna run around with like an LMG. And then of course I love the PPSH and the Automaton. I'm not that big of a fan of. But then of course you have all your other stuff down here, which can definitely be pretty good. Though I haven't really used much to the Bruin, the Vargo 52. I don't like all that much, and then the Volkssturmgewehr or the Volk. I haven't used that much either. But there's a whole bunch of other meta contenders, so you can still compete with a whole bunch of this stuff in here. But as far as absolute meta, these 3 guns, and I venture to say some of these other ones in here, like even the Type 100 could probably get thrown up in there, because that TTK is incredibly fast. All right, so hopping in here, I want to give you guys a build here for my Armaguerra. This is pretty much like my favorite one I use right now. We have the recoil booster, the Amaretto 550mm 03P barrel, the SG98 compact, the 9mm 60 round mag, lengthened for the ammunition type, grooved grip here, slate reflector, the Amaretto TA skeletal here, along with the vital perk, and then we have quick. I switched out my perk of sleight of hand over down to vital just because I felt like sleight of hand wasn't doing as much as it could, and I just do actually really enjoy running vital on this. Makes it a little bit better, though of course your recoil control and accuracy goes down ever so slightly, so you guys could definitely run something like steady or sleight of hand if you really want to not run vital. But this is a real fun build here. Love the Armaguerra. You guys should definitely be using this thing. And now my Grau build, this is gonna be like one of the other top used weapons. This is an incredibly simple build here, but it's incredibly good. So mono suppressor here, we pretty much run the mono, all the Modern Warfare weapons, no reason to run anything else. We have the Tempest 26.4 Archangel barrel, definitely the best barrel out there. The tac laser, this can stabilize this gun out a little bit, help you with your ADS. 60-round mag is my 60-round mag gun a guy, and of course we have the Commando foregrip. If you guys don't want to, you could take off the tac laser, throw on like an optic, maybe throw on the Corp Combat Hollow Sight, or the VLK 3x optic, but it's up to you guys. My preference right now is going to be using a tac laser because I play Rebirth and of course Fortune's Keep, and I do believe the iron sights on this thing allow me to see just enough. And this is one of my favorite guns to use in Warzone right now. Super good, literally like no recoil. You guys should definitely be using this one. And now to finish off the video, to give you guys a build here, at least for the PPSH, this is the hipfire build because this is what I prefer to use, and I think this is like a really solid way to run the PPSH. So we got the recoil booster, the Kolvatskaya 230mm B03P barrel, the Carver foregrip, the Nambu 71 round mag, frangible. You guys can switch this out for something like lengthened if you really want to, but frangible works out real nice as well. We have the Pine Tar rear grip here, the Kolvatskaya iron sights. Pretty much these work out real good because you're only going to be hip firing, but you could switch this maybe for something like a slate reflector, and then you just wouldn't get like that ADS benefit that you do happen to get with the iron sights, which is, you know, it's up to you, personal preference. The remove stock, and then we have tight grip and quick. But that's really about it. This is a real fun build to use. I mean, it's actually kind of OP right now, not gonna lie, so definitely try it out. But that's gonna be that. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and I'll see you all later. Just remember, cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.